Welcome to another episode of Women in Focus. Our Woman in Focus needs no introduction. She is a very well-known person in the broadcast industry, television, radio, a media personality. Her name is Simi Sara, and I'm so proud to say that she's our Woman in Focus today. Simi, you're most welcome in our program.
I am so happy to be here. I'm so happy to be. It's such an honor for me to be here with you.
It is amazing to see you where you are today. I've always looked at our young women in mainstream media and feel very proud that you guys are doing what, quote unquote, any other white person can do.
Well, thank you for calling me young. That was very sweet. I do love hearing from some young women now, or people who come up to me and say, I've been watching you my whole life. And I think, oh my goodness, am I that old? I guess that's true. I'll be 50 next year, so I guess that's true. Yes, getting up there.
Well, I never tire when people say to me, I've been watching you all my life.
I've been watching you all my life, so.
So the broadcasting bug, how did you get that?
I took, I guess it was a journalism class, probably in grade 10.
Okay.
Grade 10, grade 9. I was at Cloverdale Junior Secondary in Cloverdale, and I think grade 9 or grade 10, I took a newspaper writing class, and that was it at that moment. And I knew I really liked it. And so when I got into grade 11 and 12, I took a journalism class where our job was to put out the school newspaper. That was in grade 12.
Wow.
And I knew, and in class, I remember that we watched the movie All the President's Men.
Okay.
With Robert Redford and Dustin Hoffman.
Yes.
And by the time that movie was over, I said, that's it. Like I am going to do that for a living. And that was it. I've always known that this was the business that I wanted to be in.
So let me take you back. Your family has been here for many years. Your mother was born here?
My mother came here as a very young child. 5 years old? Yeah,
yes.
5 years old.
And you were born here?
Yes, I was born here.
Let's talk about your formative years and your family. I mean, your uncle, great friend of mine. And your extended family, I've known them for many years. I've known a few of many years. So how was it when you were little?
Well, given that you know them, then you know the pressure that I think many of my cousins and I felt growing up.
Right.
There were a lot of firsts in my family.
100%.
Yes, my aunt was the very first visible minority police officer, female police officer on the Vancouver Police Force.
Right.
I have teachers. My mother worked for the federal government in Canada Immigration and was very well known, very, very well known. I mean, my whole life I was known more for being a member of that family than I was for being Simi Sara. Yeah. And so I always felt that pressure that I had to do something to, they were always asking, well, what are you going to do? Like, what are you going to be? What are you going to do? And so I always felt that pressure, but I was so proud of my family growing up. And that no matter what it was, I have a family of bus drivers, bus teachers, federal civil servants, but that they had accomplished things and they felt that they had like a public duty to do those things. And I think that was very much ingrained in me as well, to succeed, to do well, to make my family proud of me, and that was a huge driver.
I've noticed, being here for more than 48 years, I've seen the community grow. You have too, and I've seen people like you born and brought up here, and the way of thinking is totally different from the people who are coming right now.
Yes, it is different.
So that, I think, is probably the driving force for you guys. Your parents are the ones who sort of, well, maybe role models for you.
You're right. You're absolutely right. I think that older generation that was here earlier very much felt the responsibility of being good. We have to set good examples. Everything had to be a good example. My grandmother, for instance, she didn't speak very much English. She had 11 children that she was raising in Surrey, in Cloverdale. But she instilled in them an incredible work ethic, but also this ethic of kindness and generosity to others, no matter how they were treated.
Wow.
So we did a lot of camping growing up, traveling the province, and my grandmother loved camping. And I remember very vividly, my cousins and I do, because there were so many of us, that she had rules for us when we were out in public and if we were camping. And even though she couldn't speak and converse with people, she always said to us in Punjabi, you must always greet people with a smile. You must smile at people when they are coming your way. Right. You must always say good morning. You must always behave yourselves. You must not be too loud. You must. So she always, and you know what? We're all adults now. My cousins and I, there's 25 of us. We will never forget the behavior rules that she set out for us. Yes, that she had that, made us feel that responsibility of how to behave in public.
I want to talk a little bit more about that, but let's take a short commercial break. We'll be right back with Simi Sara. Welcome back to Women in Focus. Our Woman in Focus today is Simi Sara. Simi, we were talking about you as a child and your bug for journalism. Now, when you first got your job with a newspaper, right? You were writing for a newspaper.
Surrey Leader,
Surrey Leader, okay. How long did you work with them for?
I was in a 2-year journalism program at Langara, and I worked at the Surrey Leader in the summer in between my first and second year. It was one of those Canada Works programs.
Oh, okay.
So, but it was the most invaluable experience. So I probably was there 4 months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And radio, how did that, oh, did television come before radio?
Television came before. I worked in all three. So, so from newspapers, I did an internship at 180, I call it 180 West 2nd because it's now City TV, but it has changed names so many times.
It used to be CKVU.
It was CKV, it was UTV when I started working there.
You're right.
So this would be the early 1990s.
I think Chris used to work in UTV.
Yeah, so 180 West 2nd is what I call it. I did an internship there when it was UTV, that would have been 1993.
Right.
They hired me before the internship was over, and I spent the next 15 years in television. I thought I was never going to leave. I love that place. I feel like I really grew up in that building.
Right.
And then I got laid off in 2008. And the last 10 years I have spent in radio, and I love it.
Now, when you are working in a place for such a long time, and that something that is passionate, you're very passionate about, and when you are let go, at that time, probably the feelings, mixed emotions. Am I not good enough? What is it?
It's soul crushing.
It is, isn't it?
It is. It's soul crushing because I had been in that place since I was 21 years old. I had grown up in that building. I had gained such like I'd worked with such amazing people over the years at that place, and I had learned so much from them. And then when they tell you they don't want you anymore, it was really hard. It was my identity. I had built that place into my identity. I'd had my children working there. And then a month later, the stock market crashed. I was laid off in August of 2008. And then the stock market crashed in September of 2008. My phone stopped ringing. Because at first I thought, oh, it'll be fine. Everything will be fine.
Wow.
And it was going to be fine until the stock market crashed a month later. And so getting back, that was, I think, the only time in my career that I thought, well, maybe I should do something else. Maybe I should go into a different line of work. Maybe it's time to go into public relations or, communications or something else. And that was the only time that I really stopped and seriously considered doing something else. But the opportunity to do some radio came along, and I really enjoyed it. And I did a little bit more and did a little bit more, and then it turned out that I thought, okay, this I could do this. This works for me. And I haven't looked back. I have not considered changing careers again yet, knock wood. So.
Now, you and I both have worked in all three mediums, print, television, and radio. It'll be unfair for me to ask you which one is your favorite. But
you know what, if you had asked me in each time, I would have told you the one that I was working at the time, right? And I'm sure the same would be for you. I really loved television, but I have, I think, a much greater love and deeper appreciation for radio. And I think the reason is television has changed, and you know that as well.
Yes.
Is that I feel like anymore people aren't listening to what you're saying. They're looking at how you look. And they're judging, and it's how quickly can you get people's attention, and it's just not the same. I think television that I had started out doing.
Very superficial.
It's I think become more superficial, not to devalue the great work that so many broadcasters do in television, but I don't think it's for me. And as an older woman, let's be realistic. I don't think television is as friendly to older women as it is. You, of course, are the exception to that. But in radio, I have found it's so rewarding that people are listening to me, and I'm using my brain, and I'm much more challenged than I think I was in television.
The bottom line is, for these huge major companies, the money. That's the bottom line. And if they are not making money from a certain program, you're redundant for them.
And it doesn't matter how much value you've provided in the past. That's the hard part.
So how did you meet your husband?
In journalism school, which is ironic. People are always surprised to hear that because he's not in the business.
What does he do?
He's semi-retired now. He's older than me. He's a little bit older than me. But for him, he thought this might be a new career for him when he went to journalism school.
Okay.
And he did not. At that time, in the early 90s, there was a real emphasis on making sure that the people in news looked like the people in the community. There was a real push for diversity. And people kept telling him, as a white male, we're not really that interested in hiring you. We'd be more interested in hiring your girlfriend at the time. So he kind of discouraged him from getting into the business. So he went into construction, and he did very, very well. And it worked out better for us, just kind of schedule-wise. And he's always been very supportive of what I do. And I think it worked out better, perhaps, with him not being in the business.
So you must have met him then after your mom passed away.
I did, yeah.
So I didn't talk about your mom that much. I wanted to talk about her because she was an amazing person. Many people loved what she did. She helped a lot of people.
My mother worked for Canada Immigration.
Yes.
And I used to hear her on the phone all the time as a teenager. And I used to say to her, why are you giving away all this information for free? Yeah. She would spend hours just on the phone with people looking for advice about how do I bring my family here? What forms do I fill out? The kind of advice that today immigration consultants make a ton of money.
Yeah, okay, let's not go there.
But she was giving it away for free. And I used to say to her, with that kind of teenage arrogance that you have, Mom, what are you doing? Like, why don't you quit your job and open up a consulting firm and make more money? And she would say, no, it's my duty to help them. That's my job. Yeah. And so she was so generous in spirit. And I unfortunately didn't have an appreciation for that because I was so young when she passed away, that it really formed me later. That everything I do, I think I'm so much more similar to my mother now than I was, at the age of 18 when she passed away.
Apple doesn't fall far from the tree.
I hope not, because she was an amazing person, so kind. And when she passed away and we had her funeral, the turnout was amazing. Yeah. There's more than 1,000 people there. And that made, just one more thing to make you realize that she was so generous and loved, and respected for the work that she did. So once Mom passed away, who did you live with then? Your dad? I have a very large extended family. Yes. So my mom was one of 11, and every single one of them came to me in the days after and said, you are welcome in my house, like you will come and live with me. And they have been nothing but good to me growing up. They always were. My mother was a single mother. My mom and dad, were not together for many years. So they have really raised me, and that was it. They have been so good to me in the years since, that supportive kind of group of people, that I wouldn't be able to do it without them. And what's funny? They were always good. My grandmother was so funny, is that she could not at 6 o'clock watch anything other than Tony Parsons on BCTV, right? Like, didn't matter. She had to watch Tony Parsons at 6 o'clock. And I've told Tony Parsons this story too, so he's heard this before. Even when I was on the 6 o'clock news on the other channel, I would phone her after the show and say, did you see I was doing the 6 o'clock news? And she'd say, oh, I turned it over in the commercial, but you weren't there. So she would only turn the channel when Tony was in a commercial break to see if her granddaughter was on the other station. But no, because she couldn't break the habit no matter what. Beautiful. Yes.
I'm going to talk a little bit about you and your husband and children. But let's take a short break, get the program paid for.
Yes.
Then we'll be right back. Simi Sara is our Woman in Focus today. Don't go away. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Women in Focus. Simi Sara is our Woman in Focus today. Simi, so you met this good-looking guy. You fell in love with him.
I'd like to say I did a lot of work there, though, in the years since, Shushma, please. Let's not give him too much credit. We've been married almost 30 years, so.
So how has it been with him? And you've got 2 kids?
We have 2 kids, and I've been really lucky because I think it's very hard for any woman who wants to work full-time.
Yes.
Have a career, be well known.
Yes.
Right? It's not easy, I think, for anybody to have a significant other,
yes.
male or female, and go out in public with them and have a lot of attention paid to your significant other while you have to stand there.
That's right.
And so I give him full credit and points for that, because that would be, I think for a lot of years it was, you know, and he would tell you this, that it was challenging, I think, for him. You know, when the kids were younger.
Yes.
But, and I'll tell this story, I'm sure he's not going to like me telling this story, but when we were getting married, I didn't want to change my name because I'm Simi Sara. I've been Simi Sara my whole life. And I mean, it sounds so good, right? I didn't want to change my name, but he really wanted me to change my name.
Okay.
And we went back and forth and back and forth. And I finally compromised. He was very insistent. He said that he really wanted me to change my name.
Right.
And I said, fine, I will compromise.
Yes.
Legally, I will change my name.
Okay.
But at work, I will still be Simi Sara. Well, that was 27 years ago.
Wow.
And I can tell you, Shushma, never once has he introduced me to anybody other than, this is my wife, Simi Sara. He has never, and I said to him, what happened to the big fuss about me changing my name? He has never, so I always take that as a sign of, okay, so he's proud of what I do.
A lot of respect for you.
Yes, he hasn't, you know, it may have taken some time in the early years of the marriage, because as my career was growing and I was getting better known. But I think right now, today, you can, there's a lot of pride there in what I do, and I'm just very grateful to have somebody who's so supportive.
That's beautiful. And so then, you know, in that business, in the business of journalism, television, radio, you had your kids. How was that? Was it difficult?
It was hard.
Yeah.
It was hard. It was very hard. The business is not very forgiving for pregnant women running around and doing news stories, and it was very challenging. And this would have been, my daughter was born in 1997, so I was 25 when I had my daughter. I was 28. And, you know, I was scared to go on maternity leave, and I think a lot of women probably will, you know, empathize with that. Because I wasn't sure if my job would be there.
That's right.
When I got back.
Yes.
And the first time, you know, I took 6 months. The second time I took 4 because I was afraid for my job. Rightfully so, because I had reason to be afraid.
Right.
And I feel these, I do anything I can now to support any pregnant woman in any workplace ever, because that's a very difficult thing to go through, to feel scared out of everything else you're going through. That this thing that you have worked for so hard when it comes to your career is in jeopardy just because you want to have a family. And it's not right.
So do you feel, and this might be a silly question, that being a woman of color and then also being woman, that there was double fear that I might not be able to come back because there are so many other non-ethnic white people that would be there for your job?
The first time, no. The second time, yes. The second time, it was much more competitive. There were people wanting my job. But the place that I worked at that time, I mean, I felt valued. And so there was a role for me. But I see over time that I was lucky in many ways.
Yes.
I had a very supportive group of people that I worked with. I couldn't be the reporter who got sent out to cover the wildfires in the interior. I couldn't be the reporter who put in a ton of overtime or sent out of town on some important assignment. I had to let those go. I had babies at home. I had, you know, so that was hard, that I had to realize that. I remember saying to myself, well, if that's the way it is, then that's the way it is. Like, you will continue to do the best that you can do in the stories that you can cover, but maybe you're not going to get the top story every night. That's just not going to happen.
So there comes a time, I guess, where your job is important to you, but you have to juggle the job the family, home, children, husband. It's tough.
It's very tough. Yeah. We, thinking about those years, sometimes I wonder how we did it. It was very tough. I for many years, I worked weekends so that I could have Mondays and Tuesdays off.
Okay.
So that we could juggle childcare.
Right.
So my husband looking after the kids Saturday, Sunday when I worked. Right. Mondays and Tuesdays, I had the kids.
Yes.
We did daycare for quite a few years. We had a nanny for quite a few years. So anything we could do to make it work, we did. And people always ask me, like, do you really like getting up early in the morning? Because for so much of my career, I have worked early mornings.
Right.
The answer is no. In the beginning, it was no. But I did it because that was the best schedule to spend time with my kids.
So what time do you wake up?
Right now, I wake up about 3:30.
Holy mackerel.
3:30, 3:45, somewhere around there, yeah.
And you start your show at 5 o'clock?
5:30, the show starts. I'm at work at 4:30, show starts at 5:30.
5:30 to 9:30?
5:30 to, 9. I'm usually at work until about 10 or so, and then...
Right.
Yeah.
And then now the kids are older?
Kids are, 23 and 20. And so when I took this morning job, when it came open a year ago, I sat down with my family, I sat down with my husband and the kids, and I said, okay, guys, you're grown now. You don't need me as much. I said, we need to make a commitment to support me in this. I said, I spent a lot of years not able to do work things because of you guys, right? Whether it was husband, children. I need now that support. And they were all on board.
That's
I said,
good.
and they have been amazing to me, because I said, I don't want to hear complaints about, oh, mom has to go to sleep at, mom's no fun, and, which they did for many years. And this has been different this time. This time they all seem to understand that, mom was pretty good all those years, never missed a soccer game, never missed a practice, never missed, a field hockey game. I was always there to pick them up from school. I was always there, to take them to practices and stuff. So yeah, they've been pretty good, as well they should be after all that.
Superwoman.
With a lot of help. A lot of help.
Simi, I'm going to talk to you again, but let's take a short commercial break. And thank you for being our Woman in Focus today.
Thank you for asking.
Simi Sara has been our Woman in Focus today. Don't go away. We'll be talking to her again.